Everyone, now moving to the interesting part of the afternoon session today, how marketers can leverage data and technology to deliver the new products and services. Turn its user-centricity movement approach on this head and empower associates to drive innovation from within. The answer will be presented in this topic, how Mars unlock the power of speed. And now I would like to introduce Mr. Sandeep Jelani, Chief Digital Officer, Mars Incorporated, and please welcome him.
Here to share how Mars unlocked the power of speed and drives innovation from within is Mars Incorporated Sandeep Dadlani.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world and watching this. Hopefully, Greg has saved the best session for the last. So if you're staying back to listen to me, I promise you I'll do my best to make sure we learn together. I represent Mars. I'm the Chief Digital Officer, and our purpose in life, as you can see, is that the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today. For those of you not familiar with Mars, we are a $40 billion organization. We are about in 88 countries in the pet care business, pet food business, vet hospital business, also in the confectionery business, in the food business, in the healthy snacking business. Instead of me telling you all about Mars, I'm going to play a little video, as most brand companies do, to introduce you to Mars. Please watch. Hopefully that gave you a good flavor of what Mars is like. Now, throughout this conference, you've heard about how people want to be customer centric, how everyone's mapping customer journeys, how everyone wants to delight the consumer. Well, if everybody understands the tooling, the journeys, why is it that large companies still struggle to get things done? When we embarked on our digital transformation about 3.5 years ago, we were clear we wanted to make digital real for the whole company, for its associates or employees, for consumers, for suppliers, and so on. And the single biggest thing we thought digital could do for each one was to help them go faster. Not 10% faster, not 2 times faster, but 100 times faster. And so we labeled our transformation as 100x, a journey which will allow every Martian, yes, we can call ourselves Martian, to go 100 times faster. Whether you're a brand manager in Chicago, or a warehouse worker in Tokyo, or a vet technician in Oregon, or a supply chain specialist in France, each one of you as a Martian had to go digital. You in your respective companies. If you think about digital as simply an armor, a superhero armor, when you wear it, you don't lose yourself. You don't lose your sense of humor, however bad it is. Don't lose your hairstyle, but you can go faster and make a massive difference, 100 times faster. You can see some of our characters enjoying themselves there. So, with this idea of a digital armor, we thought we should help make digital real for each and every associate, because every associate says, all right, I want that superhero armor. How do I become digital? We decided we could do this in 3 simple steps. I know there is a lot of jargon around digital that you hear all the time. Well, we boiled it down to 3 simple human things you and I could do. The first is finding the right problem in the context of the consumer or the end user that you're serving. The second is once you've framed the right problem, you solve it using data, analytics, technology, AI, all the things that you've been discussing throughout this conference. And once you solved it, many of us have many interesting stories which are one-offs, but once we solve it, we scale it using automation so that you and I can free ourselves up to find the next problem. You see, you and I as humans, we're built to be creative, to find the next problem, and not just keep manually solving them every time. So this find, solve, automate to scale becomes an engine. And the faster you can move this engine, the faster you go digital. Let's look at some examples. The first one was around finding the right problem. I know customer journeys are in, we need to make them. Consumer journeys are in, delighting the consumer is in. But what about something more basic than that? What about meeting consumers? In large companies, let me share a secret if it's not been already shared. People don't actually physically meet enough consumers. So we formed the user centricity team that made it a mission to bring the consumers, like physically consumers, into the center of the room, or in COVID times, safely into the center of the Zoom, as it may seem, and ask the consumer, how are you feeling? You and I have both been in big conference rooms run by big consulting firms where we are trying to frame the 5-year omni-channel, delightful, end-to-end connected consumer experience. But then when you bring the consumer into the middle of the room and ask her, how are you feeling about an omni-channel, end-to-end, delightful, connected? And she says, what bullshit are you talking about? The last time I checked out, your PayPal button didn't work. The M&Ms came chipped in a bag. I had this problem and that problem. That level of insight. I have a birthday coming up. I need to do this. I need to do that. I'm checking out of the store. I have a baby in my hand. I have a phone. My husband's trying to park the car. That level of insight starts unlocking new problems, new unmet need states, perhaps better consumer journeys. And it also creates a hustle within the room, whether you are chief digital officer or chief marketing officer, arrange your org structure and the furniture the way you want to. It creates a hustle, a humility that then drives action. Action not in 5-year sprints, but in 4-week sprints. And a few dozens of sprints later, when you look back, you find you made a difference. 20,000 Mars associates are now immersed in finding problems with user centricity, with design thinking, with the consumer in the center of the room. It can be a supply chain problem, an R&D problem, any problem. Finding problems is now an art driven by user centricity, the first step in going digital. The second step is around data and analytics. I think Greg said it, Bethan said it before it, and yesterday I saw Kathy from Walmart, Cynthia from Walmart say this as well. Data and analytics and AI has become the center of our problem-solving skills. And so at Mars, over the last 3 years, we've collected more than a petabyte of data. Lots of first-party data, as was mentioned, was important, with at least 100 plus data scientists and new talent coming in from the outside, hundreds of data scientists being unlocked from the inside. more than 1,000 sprints, even in the last 1 year, forget about, before that. And then 30,000 associates, not just the tech department, not just the marketing or digital departments, but 30,000 associates trained in the basics of data and analytics. In fact, if you go to a website, marsaifestival.com, you'll find all of Mars, 125,000 associates celebrated all our work in AI, 200 plus AI sprints that have scaled in Mars in December. That's when we celebrated it, just to enjoy AI at scale in Mars. This has helped us really move forward in the CPG world in particular, in terms of our maturity. So this is a consulting firm that rated us on our analytics and AI quotient in 2017. You can see they gave us a score of 10, which was somewhat embarrassing. In 2018, we moved to 33. In 2019, we moved to 40, and we're continuing that journey very aggressively forward. We're nowhere near the leaders of analytics and AI in the world, but we're certainly racing ahead of the CPG average as we know it. And it's a journey. We continue to learn. We continue to be embarrassed sometimes. And every failure is a learning moment. And once you've scaled this, once you solve these problems, you scale them using automation. So today we have more than 200 digital workers, yes, with over 300,000 plus hours saved on menial repetitive work, whether it's a marketing campaign that needs to be repeated or a supply chain order fulfillment engine that just needs to work overtime to sort of get orders in, especially in the peak we saw on pet nutrition in COVID times. These workers could take care of menial repetitive tasks. They did not need to socially distance. They could be in the same shared directory and drive a level of efficiency that we'd never seen before. The robotics and automation initiatives in Mars continue to increase faster than ever. So all of you grapple with something interesting, which we grapple with. It is speed versus scale. Yes, you can be fast in a few sprints, but for $40 billion, $100 billion organization, this has to scale. What I showed you right now is literally speed at scale. If the entire enterprise is working at that clock speed, it's a different ballgame altogether. So I'm not going to use the word unprecedented, but we have been in a time in the last 12 months that has accelerated us further to 100x. It has moved us ahead in the journey. And some of the campaigns we ran were literally like that. We basically picked up a goal of running 100 responses to the market in 100 weeks. So we're listening to consumers, finding unmet needs, and responding to them in the market. And some of the activations, obviously they're fun marketing activations, but there have been similar activation in the supply chain. We started doing telehealth for pets, which has never been done before. We were doing curbside pickups and drop-offs for pets in our vet hospitals, and so on. I'm going to take you through a few examples of what this speed did to us as an enterprise, and hopefully you'll get a flavor of this and identify with it in your enterprise. Let's start with this one. Initially, when COVID hit, the simplest thing we could do is launch a direct-to-consumer campaign where you could log on and send a Snickers from home to an essential worker, our way of saying thank you. Now, Mars traditionally has not been a D2C business. We run M&Ms.com, but it's not been a traditional D2C business. This sprint took 8 days, and subsequent to this, 18 direct-to-consumer launches were done in the subsequent few months. We expanded this particular campaign to make it a big box to a frontline worker, where if you send a box, we would match that and send another box. Another example of Snickers, you're not you when you're hungry, you need a Snickers, was manifested at speed, in days, not in months, not in years. Then we could move to advertising and content and creative. This is an interesting ad for Snickers through the pandemic, to the peak of the pandemic. Please watch.
It's so good to see you guys. Han, out here. Are we on yet? I thought we were doing a Zoom thing.
Confused?
No.
Maybe you just need a Snickers.
As you can see, our fun brands manifested themselves fast, reacted to the market fast, depending on which market they were in. The big trend during COVID was around pet adoption. Consumers were telling us that they felt pets were important to grapple with COVID, to deal with COVID. And as pet adoption picked up, consumers were also telling us that they did not feel safe walking physically into shelters. Of course, we had to solve it quickly, and the way we solved it was to drive dog adoption on Zoom with a brand, Pedigree. Please watch. And of course, you have a situation where Halloween could not be celebrated through COVID. This is such an important family activity. Trick or treating, walking up to doors, knocking the doors, and asking for a treat. How would kids survive this? One of the ideas we had was, as soon as we heard consumers worried about Halloween, we launched a digital platform called Treat Town, where you could decorate your own doors, create your own accounts, have your own candy bowls, and go and trick or treat your friends, your neighbors, even your uncle in Alaska or your grandma in Florida. For the first time, trick or treating had no geographical constraints. The platform was an outrageous hit. New experiences came to life. Partners like Disney, and of course, retail partners like Walmart and Target participated. And all in all, it was an amazing hit from an impressions, from a conversions perspective. Millions of consumers downloaded the app. I want you to take an inside look at how the app was built in literally 8 weeks.
At Mars, we believe the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today. And the Halloween of tomorrow starts with a world we'll unveil this fall.
Introducing Treat Town.
More tricks, more treats, more households than ever before.
Treat Town
Will transform trick-or-treating into an interactive, inclusive, and child-safe month-long community experience. Drive adoption,
conversion, and sales for Mars and our retailers.
and create a dynamic platform to support future holidays, partnerships, and global expansion. Welcome to the ultimate Halloween adventure.
Treat Town was just the beginning of what we have unleashed at Mars. Literally every business is launching a new weekly sprint to convert their business into a digital-first business based on a digital platform. Just a couple of weeks back, we announced a Maltesers AI cake along with Google. There are more such launches coming every week. And the launches are not just for consumers. In the factories, augmented reality, large-scale use of AI, in R&D, faster innovation, better than ever before with partners. Every function of Mars is driving this digital transformation. Our philosophy has been to form digital capabilities and federate them into every part of Mars. Because we don't want the digital department of Mars to go digital. We want all of Mars to go digital. Eventually, wherever you are, this is a human movement. And Mars being one of the most human companies on the planet, we hug, we laugh, we cry. Every human at Mars, every Martian, wants to be a digital superhero. That's our story. We're still learning, and we hope to make more progress the next time we see you. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Sandeep, that was great. I really appreciate it. So listen, I did have a question come in, and then like a dope, I closed my iPad and I lost the question here. Let me see if I can find that again. I think, oh, here it is. Okay. Listen, so in these 4-week sprints, how do you actually prioritize how do you prioritize problems or opportunities and stuff? Talk a little bit about that process.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great question. The first idea of prioritization is you have limited capacity. That's why you prioritized. You have limited resources.
Right.
And that's true. But to some extent, we are dispelling that myth. You see, if you have a digital department where 10 people can do AI, then you need to prioritize. More than 30,000 people now are trained in analytics at Mars. More than 1,500 people got trained in AI in the AI festival in December. So in some senses, we are unlocking capacity at a very, very large scale where all 125,000 associates of Mars can run digital. That's important. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, if you really take a bunch of 10 problems to be solved and you start looking at simpler criteria, not corporate jargon, but simpler criteria, does it work towards a purpose? For example, the pet care world, in our pet care business, our purpose is building a better world for pets. Will this new contraption build a better world for pets? Half of them will fall out. Or number two, has the problem been found along with consumers? As soon as you start asking these questions, the prioritization figures itself out very, very easily. My hypothesis is most companies are solving the wrong problems because they haven't been found physically with consumers. They've been found in a conference room where you and I have sat together, not you and I, but people like you and I, and have figured out what problems might there be. When you talk to consumers, physically, viscerally, then the real problems come out. And those are worth fighting for all day.
Do you think Mars is kind of as, given the structure of the business and so on, that you guys have a unique advantage versus, I don't know, maybe like, other public companies? Do you think there's just an inherent, do you think it's is it a flow through from the top? Is it kind of the structure of the thing, the governance? I don't know. What do you think sets you apart to be so good at that kind of thing? That's a big question.
I think it definitely sets us apart. There's no question, but not for some of the reasons you may think. The accountability and the financial governance of this company, and I've worked for other public companies and I've consulted other public companies before, the accountability and governance in this company is as brutal or as precise as any company that I have seen.
Right.
However, the idea that it is family owned allows us to think in generations for the long term, and it allows us to operate with principles which are focused on the consumer. That does help in terms of how we manage our associates, how we prioritize our initiatives, and so on. So in some sense, it allows us to be more human. The culture at Mars, and there's a reason why we are the great places to work in almost every country on the planet, is guided by the way the family owns and runs the business.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that it has to play a very positive role, and it's pretty unique in the world to have that. So congratulations. Okay, well, listen, we're going to let you out of here. One quick one, though. You will be getting an invite from me to join our Chief Digital Officer board. So just know that that's coming. Let's talk. If it's interesting to you, we'd love to have your input to it. That'd be great. Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it, Sandeep. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sandeep Jalani. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next part, I will introduce you about Smartest Vietnam Shortlist Winner 2021. See you in a few seconds.